My father begged me to go spend the parties with them. After a 6-hour flight, I arrived and opened the door and said, "You're going to take care of your sister's children. Let's go on a trip, familiar." My sister said, laughing, "I don't care. Clean the snot, children." They laughed until I surprised with my statement. My sister screamed. My father, he went crazy, and my mother begged. But then, I was half asleep when my phone rang at 6 in the morning. See, Dad on the screen stirred my stomach. It's never just a call. "How are you with him?" I hesitated for a second. Then, I answered. It was straight to the point, wondering if I could go to Seattle to the holiday. Said the whole family would be together this year and would mean a lot to him. His voice was even a little softer than usual. Against my better judgment, I said yes. I booked a flight from Miami. I left everything at work and even bought some gifts for children. It cost me a stupid amount of money, not just for the flight but also by the car rent. I thought I would need, although he said he didn't, would bother. I wanted to be prepared. I always do it. I just do it. I'm like that. Or maybe that's what I've been into, converted, the one in charge of the things. The snow hit me the moment I came out of that wet guy attack, and heavy that makes you regret everything. The Uber ride to his apartment, it felt longer than the flight. I looked out the window, half waiting for something went wrong. It was the same neighborhood in which that I grew up, in the same house. Although now, it felt more like a place I made. It's possible that they lived in it like a home, but I paid it. Mortgage, electricity, internet. My sister hadn't had a job reel in more than a year, and my parents, they always had an excuse to explain because his pension or retirement was not enough. As I walked up the stairs, I was expecting some kind of welcome. I don't know why. Maybe one smile, maybe even a thank you. Dad opened the door, he looked at me, and then he said it without hesitation. "You are going to take care of your sister's children. We are going on vacation, relatives." I just stood there, standing, without a hug or even a damn hello. Then, my sister showed up with a duffel bag and looking too much excited for someone who is about to leave their children. The two little ones were already with their coats, trampling the snow all over the entrance. She smiled and said with a laughter, "Don't wipe your snot on your children." Everyone started laughing. My mom joined in from the kitchen, as if it were a moment of comedy. They thought hilarious. And that's when I said it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to do it. I just laid it all out. Everything he had done for them, every bill I had paid, every time I'd covered the credit card debt. My sister credit, every lie that I told my own landlord just to get the money for food. Then I told them something they weren't expecting. The only thing I had been saving for months, the detail that upset his little plan. That's when my sister started screaming. My dad lost his temper so fast that through the coat rack. My mom started begging with hands up, as if he could undo the last 5 years in an instant. But I had finished. They dragged me all over the country, thinking I would be their babysitter free, while they left vacation. What they didn't realize was that Seattle was exactly where he needed to be. There to ruin his plans. And that was just the beginning. What happens to people like my family is they always assume that you will give in. Eventually, my sister could savor the mountain view from my mother's resort room. I had probably packed 10 scarves and no underwear. And my dad, he just wanted to disappear for a week and pretend that his failures were someone else's fault person. So, when I told them no, I would stay to take care of the children. I don't think so who have registered it immediate. It was like a failure in his heads, just stayed there, blinking, waiting for him to say that was joking. I wasn't. I didn't come to care children. I came to see how everything fell apart. I told them that their reservation at the resort had disappeared. Cancelled 3 years ago, days. Fully refunded in the credit card. What a surprise. There was paid for him a few years ago, months. He didn't realize why I had stopped opening his own excerpts years ago. At first, my sister laughed as if she thought was bragging. Then, he opened the app from the resort. He turned pale. His hand began to shake. My mom looked over her shoulder. It blinked a few times, and then it started to ask questions that no one could respond. Then came the part of the airline. I told them that the flights had been diverted. Without refunds. That would have been too easy. I had transferred the credit to my own name, to an account he had opened months planning this. my father shouted something on fraud. I reminded him that it was not fraud if the card was in my name. All of those improvements and invoices had not paid anything in a year. The whole house, their food, the payment from my sister's car, everything happened. He just signed his name and took the credit. But the highlight was that I put on the table, continued. It was not an elegant envelope or nothing, just a folded letter from the bank. Polite reminder that payments, mortgage automatics had been detained. No threats, no ultimatums, just a let's catch up soon tone. 3 weeks ago, I stopped reporting on the house. I wanted to see how long it would take. Give spoiler account does not. They did. Now, my sister was walking in circles, trying to call the resort. Probably waiting for someone would reverse the cancellation. My mom asked me how could be so cruel after everything what they had done for me. That was the part that made me laugh. They really thought that they had done something for me. Then it rang. The bell. Everyone stopped. They weren't expecting anyone. I was planned this at minute. I told them to relax. No, it was the bank. Not yet. My dad opened the door, and a tall woman of about 40 entered. And so many years, with a clipboard and a plaque around the neck. It was presented as Aaron from Protective Services Childish. My sister's face, he was left without color. You see, he had called a go. 3 weeks. I told him what I had seen during our last video call. Zoom. Kids alone in the backyard, without coats. One of them crying, while my sister smoked on the porch and moved around phone. Had screenshots, dates. Child Protective Services, hours. He had opened a silent file. Nothing serious at first, but they were forced to do a follow-up. And now, they were here to a home visit. I gave Aaron a polite smile and told him. I said it was the guy who was in the city for the holidays, and what I thought, that you would like to see the kitchen refrigerator. My sister didn't say a word, just stood there frozen, clutching her useless plane tickets. It was the first time I saw her without words in years, and we had not even reached the good part. The Protective Services woman, childlike, entered with calm authority, and I made sure not to say too much. The house spoke for itself. The kitchen sink was full of plates. There were empty wine bottles in it. Counter. One of the children had smeared peanut butter on the wall next to the dining table. And when Aaron asked to see the children's room, I did aside and let her see for herself. My sister tried to change the chip. Suddenly, it was the mother, worried. She said she hadn't had time to clean because they were packing. He said he always left detailed instructions and never would go on vacation without making sure their babies were insurance. He said I agree with everything. No. I reacted. I just looked at Aaron. He asked if I had any messages or texts from my sister confirming that I would take care of the children. Music. I took out my cell phone and gave it to him. I delivered my sister's last message. It was from 2 days ago. Can you buy me shampoo in Miami? The one you bought me last time. Nothing about babysitting. Anything about consent. Just one trip. Free. Like always. My dad intervened. He tried to pass it by for a misunderstanding. He said there was always helped the family, that this was not different. He said they were under a lot, stress, financial problems, health, mental exhaustion, all big successes. I told Aaron that I paid his mortgage, your invoices, including their delivery of groceries. I opened the banking app, and I showed him 3 years of transfers, 5-figure support every month. Ella, he nodded, scribbled something, and raised the stairs to see how they were, children, playing in their room with a tablet and a bag of chips. Fried. When she was out of reach of finally heard my mother. He burst out. He asked me what it was about, all this. I was really trying to destroy the family for some feelings, injured. If I felt underrated. I looked her in the eyes and told her, I asked if it happened that maybe I didn't have any problem in helping, but he had a problem with being used. Maybe it wasn't about the money. Maybe it was that, the moment I walked through that door, they made it clear that I was just one tool. That didn't take me around the country to see me. They took me here to disappear while they played at being a family in another place. They all stayed in silence. I told them that this was not revenge for a weekend. It was for years of being the fire escape of their lives. Years of missed calls, ignored birthdays, and disappearances, only to show up when they needed a check or a favor. I told them that I had already contacted the mortgage company. They would soon receive a letter. Not just a warning, but a property revaluation. I would remove my name from the account. If they wanted to keep the house, they would have to qualify themselves. Spoilers themselves wouldn't do it. I told them that the car I co-signed for my sister would be seized at the end of the month. I had already missed 2 payments. Simply, I had not reported it until this morning. I told them that public services, they would cut in a week if not updated the information. Billing. They stood there like puppets. And then I told them something that wasn't planned to say, that this was not the only one house that was maintaining. That the real reason why, the one who had come to Seattle was for, buy a house. Not theirs. Mine. An apartment in the center. Totally paid. I hadn't told him because I knew what they would do, turn it into a new operation branch. Leech. But it was mine, and I moved that one night. Then Aaron went down the stairs and gave them a list of what he needed to be arranged. He said this visit was a warning, but I would come back. And if things didn't change, they would have to deal with more than just vacation. Cancelled. He left. I took my suitcase. I finally took it out of the entry. They stopped. None of them asked me to, I would be. Understood. You are right. Let's fix this. After everything exploded. After services, child protection came out, main door, and will leave them standing among the rubble of his own disaster. I thought I would sleep there for 2 nights like maximum. My house was not yet completely furnished. I had furniture that arrived in 2 days. I still had to fill the fridge, pick up some things, maybe unpack properly. But I didn't have hurry. For once, I thought I could take my time. When things started to calm down, I looked at my dad and said, so, that I will stay with you for 2 days until, come back to my house. I said it like, would anyone? Normal. Without presumption. Without sarcasm. Alone. A statement. And he looked at me as if I would have insulted, personally. This time, he didn't raise his voice. He just said no. He said I was no longer welcome there. There were, humiliated. That if I thought it was better, that they could now prove it from another place. I looked at my mother. She didn't say one word. My sister was still hiding with the children. It was exactly what it seemed like. I had been used all the time that they could. And now that I was not following the game, was disposable. So, I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't say a word more. I took my suitcase, barely unzipped, and I left. Without a dramatic exit speech. Just a man coming out of a house that no longer belonged. I drove to my new apartment. They didn't even know about that existed. A 1-bedroom apartment in the center. 10th floor. Clean. Minimalist. Fully paid. I had been planning this, moving for more than a year in silence. While continuing to send money and pretending that I didn't care. The place still smelled of fresh paint. The floors were cold. The refrigerator, it was empty, and there were no sheets in the room. Bed. But it was mine. Nobody had the keys except me. I put my suitcase in the closet, and I stood there for a moment, without hearing anything. No TV blaring, no kids screaming, without anyone asking for it, will carry. Neither a favor nor a loan. For the first time in years, it was not responsible for no one but myself. The next morning, I made coffee and I sat by the window, looking at the traffic below. I didn't expect anyone would get in touch with me. I thought they would hold on to their posture. That they would spend the week telling each other that there was lost the mind. That was selfish. But around 11 o'clock tomorrow, my phone vibrated. A message from, text from my sister. Asked if she could come alone. Said she wanted to talk. Said that did not come to fight. He said he wanted to apologize, and for some reason, I said yeah. A few minutes later, he sent again a text message, I'm not trying to fight, I just want to say what I should have said a long time ago. Please, 5 minutes. I waited. I let her. I thought. Then I sent the address. About an hour later, I saw her out the window, standing outside the building with a gray sweatshirt, with the hood up, arms crossed, clearly unsure whether to call or leave. She seemed different, smaller somehow. No makeup, no phone in hand, no kids climbing on her. Just her. The version of her I remembered before everything became a disaster of law and excuses. I let her in. When she entered the apartment, she stopped for a second, as if she had entered someone else's life. She looked around, bare walls, new sofa, still some boxes unpacked, neatly stacked in a corner. "This is really nice," she said, as if surprised that I had built something clean and quiet for myself. I did not respond. I went to the kitchen, poured 2 coffees, and gave her one. She took it and sat as if she would wait for them to tell her what to do. It was the first time. She didn't waste time. No drama. It began with the sorry. She said she was sorry for everything, the way they planned to leave me with the children, for acting as if I was no longer doing enough, for every time she sent me text messages asking for money like it was nothing. She even apologized for the way she laughed when I walked in through the door. That moment apparently remained recorded. She admitted they had gotten used to me fixing things that our parents expected her to. She said it felt normal until I stopped playing along, and then things got ugly. I just listened. When she finished, I told her I appreciated it, that I needed to hear that. But I also said I couldn't pretend there wasn't a past, that apologizing wouldn't fix anything unless she really changed. She nodded. She said she understood. She said she wouldn't come home that night. She and the children would stay in a hotel for now. She said she was thinking about getting her own place. She seemed to be serious. I told her she ought to do it. Before leaving, she gave me a thank you. No hugs, no pretense of closeness. She just walked out, calmer than I had seen her. I never stood by the window to see her leave. And for a second, I thought, maybe there was something changed. But around 7:30 that night, my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I let it play. Then voicemail appeared. It was my dad. His voice was deep, cold. "If you think this is over, you are dumber than I thought. You want to embarrass this family? You'll see how it feels." I stayed there, and I heard it twice. I wasn't going to let it go. Blame. Money. Free work. It wasn't enough that I was gone. Now they wanted something back, to make me pay for getting out of line. And that was when I realized that they were up to something. And it wasn't just about revenge. It meant they wanted to drag me with them. Voicemail confirmed what I already knew. My father was not going to accept defeat in silence. My mother would continue his example. That had always been her role, soften the blow after he would make it seem like there's still some heat in a house that worked with control. I didn't respond. I didn't return the call. I simply opened the envelope I had been saving for the right moment. Inside were copies of documents, each bank transfer, every utility payment, every credit card payment that I had made in their name. Each one stapled with dates and account numbers. I printed them weeks ago and saved them in a folder labeled Recover. Not for legal reasons yet, but because I knew that people like them only understood one thing: proof. The next morning, I visited the lender. The mortgage had stopped being paid weeks ago, but now it was official. I signed a form deleting my name from everything related to the house. I didn't want it to be repossessed. I wanted them to be the owners of all the late payments, increasing interest, phone calls, the wait. I left with a smile I hadn't shown in years. Back in my apartment, I took another step, the most silent but the most drastic. I logged into my bank account and reversed 3 scheduled transfers, one for groceries, one for their phone plan, and another for my sister's car insurance. All cancelled with 2 clicks. I sat down. I was having a coffee when my mother texted a long and incoherent message about how family should not be transactional, and how cutting people is not love. I responded. Then came the group text. Her, Dad, and my sister tried to change the narrative. They said they were betrayed, that they had sacrificed everything for me when I was a child, that now I was punishing them for a misunderstanding. But they didn't expect what would come after, the final surprise, the reason why I had no intention of returning to set foot in their house. 3 months ago, I silently filed a complaint with a government housing program. Nothing dramatic, just a request to review how the financial assistance in multi-adult households with dependent children was being managed. I included copies of the bills I paid, proof of how my money was being used to subsidize their lives, while the children were neglected, sometimes left alone, sometimes shipped off with just a goodbye. That triggered an internal audit. And yesterday, while they were still arguing about who should call me first, they received a letter. A formal review of their eligibility for support programs, child housing assistance and disability benefits. A letter that began with "We regret to inform you," and ended with "subject to investigation." My sister sent me a text message at 10:23 at night with a single word, "Why?" I ignored it. Because they brought me all over the country to take care of their mess, and everything I did was returned to them, piece by piece. For the last week of December, I hadn't heard from them in days. No text messages or calls. My sister had stopped contacting me. The silence was a new tactic, a temporary withdrawal while they figured out from what angle to attack me. I didn't let it distract me. I was finishing unpacking when there was a knock at the door of my apartment. It was unexpected. Silent. No banging or aggression, just deliberate. I opened the door, half expecting to see my sister again. But it was my mother, standing there with a thick coat, hands in sleeves, eyes red as if she had been crying, but not the kind of crying you do when you're hurt. The kind of crying you do when you have no ways left to win. She asked if she could come in. I let her. She didn't sit down, didn't touch anything. She just stood by the window, looking at the city like she needed to see something stable. She said they had received the official letter, that the review of the benefits was running, that my sister's car had been seized that morning, that my dad had spent the last 2 days calling old friends trying to find someone willing to lend him money. No one had. She said she came alone because she knew my father would only make things worse if he were there. She was angry, not because I turned my back on her, but because I had done it cleanly, without screams, without chaos. Just one quiet exit and complete. Then she asked the question I wasn't expecting, "What do we do now?" "How could you? You didn't just ruin us." I told her the truth. I said, "Start again. Live within your means. Stop treating people as safety nets. And if you ever want me back in your lives, it will be as a person, not as a solution." She nodded once. Then she handed over a small envelope without a sender. Inside was a check. A real one. Not for everything, but for part of what they owed me. She said that was all they had for now, and they would send more when possible. I didn't say anything. I just set it on the counter. She left without apologizing. Just a soft "take care." And gone. I never saw my father again. My sister didn't get in touch for 3 months. Then one day she sent me an email, a photo of the children standing in front of a small apartment building, holding a set of keys. A new beginning. She didn't ask for anything. She just wrote, "Thank you, even if I hate you." I didn't respond. I gave it a few weeks. Then I sent a photo of the city horizon from my window with only one line, "No hate. Just limits." And that was it. The end of a cycle. The beginning of something else, clean. Not everyone gets closure, but I got distance. And sometimes, that is stronger. Mini update. A little over a month has passed since it all ended. Or maybe I should say, since life finally began. It's calmer now. The apartment feels lived in. Things are where I want. My refrigerator is not empty. And I wake up without that familiar fear in my chest, the one that used to appear when I saw their names on my phone. Last week, I received a letter by mail. No sender. Just my name and a handwriting I immediately recognized, Mother. Inside was another small check, not large, but consistent, and a note that simply said, "We are doing everything we can." I didn't cash the first one, or this one. I'm still waiting to see if the effort continues, if it's real, or just a temporary spasm of guilt. I'm not bitter. Just cautious. My sister has kept her word. She now works part-time in a nursery, which has meaning. She sent another photo, her children smiling in a real living room. A rug. A sofa. Coloring books scattered. Without chaos. Without tension behind their eyes like before. We don't speak directly. Just short messages, silent updates. That's all I want right now. Peace. Not reunion. As for my dad, nothing. No text message. Not even a whisper. And honestly, I don't expect one. People like him don't know how to apologize. They wait for the world to bend before them. I don't bend. Something strange happened last night. I found myself laughing. Not at a show or a meme, just nothing. I was sitting there, drinking tea, watching the snow fall from my 10th floor window. And I laughed. Because I wasn't expecting the next catastrophe. I was simply calm. And after all that, that kind of silence is worth more than any sorry.